Hello and welcome back. As we're in the week of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, I'm building this, the Porsche 962C. This is the 143rd Hella kit, and it's based on this car, which was driven in 1989 by Kenwood Kremer. As you can see, it's moulded in red to help with that livery. It's a simple kit, but it does have seats in the interior, steering wheel, some vents. In here we've got two metal axles, the rubber tyres, as you can see, and on the clear sprue we've got a window part. It's got a moulded in windscreen wiper and the two headlight coverings. These are the decals that come with the kit, but I'm not going to be using those. I'm going to be creating the Rothmans Porsche works car, which won the race in 1987. Here it is in the sprint format at Silverstone. So that means this will need to be white and blue. So first thing to do is to sand down any mould seams. They're pretty prominent along the edges of the car and around the front headlights as well. Just using these sanding sticks to do that. And around the back. Now next I'm opening up the holes for the wing mirrors a little bit wider. So I found that the fitment wasn't great on similar kits that I've done in the past. Using an anti-static brush before priming it using this white primer. Red plastic has a tendency to sort of bleed through into white paint, so it's really important to prime it nice and smoothly before applying the white. Then for the white paint I used BOAB Models Rally White. That's ready mixed. I went through my Gallery airbrush. Once that white paint had cured, I masked off those sections that needed to stay white in order to do the sides and the inside of the rear wing in blue. For that I used Tamiya X4, which is the colour that they recommend on their Rothmans Porsche kits. This curved tape is also really useful along this thin edge. There it is, all masked off. And as I say, this is X4 blue from Tamiya, mixed about 50-50 with their just standard thinners. Now, unfortunately, I did forget to mask off the inside of the windows and the vents. So when I remove these, you'll see that I did get quite a bit of blue bleed in places. See there along the side windows. Really my fault. So I wet sanded the blue paint down as best as possible, then masked off all the other sections, including these vents, and redid the white paint on the top. And felt that it came out okay after doing this. There we are. Pretty crisp, if you ask me. And there's the rear wing as well. Now I gave this a brisk gloss coat before adding the decals. Used Tamiya LP9 for that. And then these decals from Le Mans Decals, they're all on one continuous sheet, so you need to cut them out individually, as you can see I have done here. I'm using Mr. Mark's setter to help them adhere and then pushing them into place with a damp cotton bud. You can see the red and gold strips down the side of the bodywork as well. Make sure to push these decals into place. Now these roof ones are made out of a few pieces. There isn't actually an NACA vent on the roof here, but you can see where there should be one cut out. 17 on the wheel arch. Now this one on the roof is not quite long enough, and as well it goes over another NACA vent. So what I did was I cut a triangular piece out where that goes over the vent and then sort of patched them together as best as I could. Let me know what you think. It's not perfect, but I think it looks a lot better than just pretending the vent isn't there. Very difficult to get this all lined up straight. Remember to remove as much of the carrier film as possible so that it fits on these very small shapes. There's a Dunlop decal. And then you've got the large Rothmans Porsche decal for the rear wing. Unfortunately, this doesn't come with a reference picture to show you where all the decals need to go. So if you're doing this, just make sure to look at images or of a model or something like that to make sure that they're all going in the right place. So now to work on the floor. Found it's easiest to attach some of these parts before priming and painting. So you've got this interior section here, although I left out the driver's seat, which is a separate part. That was primed in white and then painted black with for some sections in white as well. You can see the front lip here will be visible. And these sections here will need to be painted blue, so I'll mask them off. Now for the seat, I found I had this spare sticky back vinyl. I used a small amount of silver paint pen for the buckles and then a little bit of yellow masking tape for the Sabelt logos. Now after doing a base coat of matte black, I then went over some of this with aluminium to do the metal sections. I actually did a little bit too much. These vents here, radiator sections maybe, they do need to be silver, but the kind of side sections to either side of the seats should actually be semi-gloss black because I think they're carbon fibre. So after that cures, I go over it with some semi-gloss black, as you can see here, and then attach the seat. Now the real car has these wheel covers, as you can see. Unfortunately, this kit doesn't come with them, even though a different version of the Hella 962 does. So what I did was I used these circular stencils and some 0.5mm styrene card, cut out those circles as best as possible, and then sanded them as smooth as I could. As you can see, there's a small cross on these, so you can find the middle. Then after picking out the middle with the craft blade, I then used this hole punch. I think there's probably about 1 millimeter wide here to pick out this centre circle. And that was around the right size to just lodge straight in the middle of these semi-gloss black wheels. There we are, no glue needed here. Front and rear tyres are slightly different, with the rears being slightly wider. And then you've got the metal axles. It's actually the wider axle which goes on the rear tyres here. The front one needs to be sort of threaded very carefully. Then attach both the wheels. There we are. I think that looks okay considering the circumstances. Now the decals need to be cut out individually, just like everything else, so cut out the circle as best as possible, and then I used a larger hole punch to cut out the middles, just so that they can go over those hubs nicely. Again, a little bit of Mr. Mark Setter to help them adhere. So the bodywork has now been clear coated with Tamiya LP9 clear gloss, and after it was let to cure for a day, I then did the semi-gloss black accents, including around the window trim and those two supports on the rear wing. I also painted the inside of the windscreen section in anthracite grey and the dashboard in semi-gloss black. Here I'm using semi-gloss black on the insides of the headlight section. And I'm using this Galeri gold paint pen to pick out the fuel filler caps. And these gun down markers are very good for these vents. Bit of Posca paint pen for these red door handles. And also for the extinguisher switch here. There are small tail lights at the back, which after being painted black, I went over in silver. Then once that had cured, I went over with some red and orange Sharpies. These vent sections need to be added, they should be white. And I found the rear wing needed to be sanded down slightly on either side to fit properly. Just be very careful with that, as you don't want to scratch the paint accidentally. There's the steering wheel. I used this fine nib Sharpie to pick out the windscreen wiper on the front here. Now I found that the windscreen part was actually the worst aspect of this kit. It just doesn't fit particularly well. I had to sort of jam this in through the inside and also sand down the edges a little bit, but it wasn't perfect. And in the end, in order to make it stay in the right place, I even used a small amount of tape on the inside of the roof. But there we are. For the headlights, I used this aluminium tape, again cutting out small circles with the hole punch. And then a small amount of orange paint on the headlights and also on the sides for the indicators. a little bit of PVA glue for the headlights. These are strange because they're all solid plastic rather than sort of hollow, but they look okay. And here we are, putting it all together. Didn't find that this needed any glue. I'm using this fine gundown marker to do the tow hook at the front. And picking out some of the details with this panel line accent. The wing mirrors, which were done in semi-gloss black, had a little bit of silver on the inside, and then I used super glue to fit those into place. They were a little bit tight, so it was just as well that I opened these holes a bit wider with the drill at the beginning. Sunstrip goes on here. Again, Mr. Mark Setter. Here using a bit of Mr. Mark Softer just to let it smooth out. And finally, the only kit decals I will use are these little circles which go on the side windows. However, as the interior is mainly black, once I put them into place, you couldn't really see them. But, you know, at least we know they're there. And there we are, it's finished. I quite enjoyed building this one. It's an impressive looking car with a stunning, iconic livery. Obviously, this being the winner, we'll see how well Porsche do this weekend, although my money is probably on Toyota or Ferrari. Have you built this one before? Have you built maybe one of the Hasegawa or Tamiya versions? To be honest, I'm tempted by them myself now as well. As always, leave a comment, subscribe, hit the like button as it really helps the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.